Hello, I am Jonathan Munoz, and I'm very happy to have another video finally after so long. This week was very busy for me and for my team on doing your personal statements, supplemental eras, and revision of your CVs. A lot of things we have worked on. Um, it's only 1 or 2 more days for the deadline, for the beginning of the season, and I just want to say something about the personal statements that we did, or the ERAS applications and the CVs. There's there's no wrong or right format. I go to these leadership conferences every year to know more about what people in leadership wants from residents. People in leadership are always people in leadership roles are always case program directors, people that interview applicants, and the same. This part, the personal statement, it's an empty field. There's nothing that is going to really help you much, but there are many things that can hurt you. Like what? Like the grammar errors, the punctuation, and the deviation from a personal statement to a more general statement, and also focusing too much on yourself, like mentioning all what is on your CV in your personal statement. Whereas what you should be focusing is on portraying who is the person, who are you, and why should we like you. And so we talk about that through the season. And I do this for as a side gig, and ultimately I can make my recommendations on how I feel about making a personal statement. And as I always say, this is my style of writing, this is the way I do it. And you can say, well, even if it's your style of writing, I want my personal statement to have this information, I want my personal statement to have this and that and that. And that's fine. I had many different clients. Some of them just try to focus on the person, and I like those a lot because they just try to portray who they are as a person, something that's not on their CV, something that's not on the supplemental eras, something like is very personal about a disease process that brought them into medicine, the loss of a family person, the qualities that they have as a person, as a leader. And there's nothing wrong to mention that you can be a leader. The way to mention that you can be a leader has to be in a way that is so humble that you're not going to try to jump into other people's spaces to make your way to the top, or that you're not going to try to, you know, to be the leader on your first year. That's the way to talk about leadership. Then another thing or concerns I had when writing personal statements is um, I mention a lot of community involvement in my personal statements. And people ask me, if I mention community or say the word community, will I have problems to match into a university program? And no, that's not the issue. If you mention community, you mean that you want to be engaging the community around you, and that can happen at a university academic level or a community hospital. It doesn't mean that you're only focusing on working on a community level. Um, so those are two things that I found writing statements this year is the same every year. I went through the statements I wrote last year, and I try to keep it on the same format that I used for the ones that matched it last year, um, to the ones that I'm doing this year. Because every year you still learn from something that happened before. For example, this year, before writing statements on the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I asked people that I connected last year, interviewing or preparing them for the interviews, and I asked them, hey, how do you feel my interview preparation worked for you? And they say, well, what worked for me, what was new for me, was your perspective on what is to be expected on a new person or a foreign graduate to do or to know. And in fact, two of them actually had family members that are applying this year, and they said, I want you to train my brother into what you know and talk to him about, opening his eyes to the concept of this and that. And it's very rewarding to see that, but I also want you to have that for you. So as the beginning of the season is about to start, I want you to know that I am here, my team is here, and we are going to start doing the preparation interview sessions very soon. The one-on-ones, we have to carefully schedule them because we're gonna see a lot of people that try to schedule this one-to-one last minute. And with last minute, I'm talking 1 week, 3 days, and that is wrong. Think about it. If you're going to spend, if you only get 3 or 4 interviews, you have to maximize the chances that you have to get into one of these places. If you're only getting 4 or 3 interviews, chances are that you need to maximize those to get in. So what I offer is my perspective into what I know about interviewing applicants. I only interview mainly American applicants because as our program only has doesn't sponsor visas. But what I know from going to my leadership conferences, meetings, is that what we want, what all program directors want, and what we want you to talk about. And what we want you to talk about is about what makes you ready to start residency, even if you're a foreigner. So how do I know that you know how to work in the inpatient setting or outpatient setting beyond describing pathologies or working on patient diagnosis? Beyond that, how do I know that you can address goals of care, that you can do a pulse form, that you can connect with a case manager to get supplies for this patient to go home, like a wheelchair, like a bedside commode, like physical therapy at home? Or if it's inpatient, how do I know that you know how to talk, who is the case manager and what's the role in the discharge planning part of the hospitalization? Because those are things that are very important, and I don't think that I should have to spend time on teaching you, hey, this is Dr. Munoz and we want you to meet the case manager. No, by the time that you come, you should be working at a level of an American student that knows all that. So otherwise, why would you have you here? So my perspective on this interview is that when you get a question, the way to answer is focusing on your strengths, on the years of working on your country, applying that to the current environment, and giving a positive light of it. And there are different styles, and also the interview process is not, there's nothing wrong or right on the way that you answer your questions, but what is wrong is not to give a good insight on how you are ready to this. For example, while working on personal statements, a lot of people told me, hey, I had a lot of opportunities to work on getting to know EHR, electronic medical records. And so when I was writing the personal statements, I said, I am very familiar with electronic medical records, and at this point in time, my focus is on highly specific documentation of medical diagnosis. And they would call me and say, hey, I want you to edit this part because my focus, I didn't say that I am very focused on documentation of clinical diagnosis. I said that I know EHR, I know electronic medical records. So my perspective about this is electronic medical records are all the same. There's nothing special about you knowing the electronic medical record that's used in one area of the country. What is important about knowing electronic medical records is that you know what is the ultimate purpose of it, and you are okay with it, and you are willing to work with it. So the ultimate point of electronic medical records is for you to document to the highest specificity of a diagnosis for this patient to be considered at the right level of care. For example, one person that doesn't know the value of electronic medical records would say this is pneumonia, and I only say pneumonia, and I'm a doctor, and this is pneumonia. But the person that knows the value of electronic medical records and specificity in diagnosis would say, well, this patient also presents with fever, tachycardia, and a white blood cell count of 25. So I think this patient has severe sepsis due to pneumonia. The patient with just pneumonia will get $4,000 for the hospital. The patient that says severe sepsis with pneumonia will get $15,000. So for programs that are part of a hospital setting, the way that a program is subsidized is by the work that the residents do. If a resident does a poor work, then the hospital is not happy. But if a resident does a great job and the residency program as a whole has a great numbers on documentation, then oh wow, this is great. So we want that on a person that is coming to work with us. We want you to know all about documentation. So this is my perspective. I want you to know that. And then many times when I explain this on the people I was doing personal statements for, they said, oh, well, yeah, I believe that's important. I believe that's something I can commit to. And they said, okay, keep that part on my personal statement. But see, that's the insight I provide. And it's not something that you will find in other places. There are so many services that you can go to get this interview preparation. I will be cautious, and I will ask when you start texting them or emailing them about their fees, because some of them have packages and the packages are very pricey. I heard of 1,500, 2,000. Last year I was working with a group for residency interviews that they were charging a package of $2,000 to have 4 sessions one-on-one and 2 group sessions, and it was poor. The service was poor. You could only talk to the main leader of the group once, and then you were given to talk to a psychologist, to a neurologist, and to me. And I thought, well, I have some good insight to share. The main lady has a good insight to share, but the other people, the psychologists and the neurologists, they don't know anything about primary care. They know what they know, but it's not enough. They're not committed to it. They may say they're committed. That's okay, but in my mind, they're not going to give you the insight I give you. So be careful. I think I have already shared in the Facebook group enough videos for you to know about primary care or what's going on around primary care. So try to focus on those, try to learn from that. And if you ultimately want a one-on-one with us, try to schedule it ahead of time. Why? Because this is a thing of repetition. What I teach you in 1 hour or 2 hours, you should practice it for 15 hours. So it comes as a very natural conversation to a person that can believe, oh wow, this is on his heart, even if you just learn that. But it has to be on your heart, and it is on your heart, you just don't know it. And this is something I realized on the last 3 years. Many things that is happening in primary care here, it's in your heart, you know it, but you just don't know that you know it. And so with that, I want to give you hope, because of all the people I interviewed or prep last year, a lot of them match it. I'm very happy for them. And the referrals that they started sending me after I moved into my own venture is very encouraging for me. So without more to say, we're going to start the group preparations that are going to be free once a week this Saturday at 1 p.m. So if you happen to have some free time, let's start talking and see how can we prepare you. And if you need more on a one-to-one, please decide on that early, because later on, so there's not going to be more time. You're not going to have time to practice on your own. But as every year, good luck to you, and you are here for a reason. You work super hard. This is the last step. I think it's a good investment, so it's up to you. We'll see you this Saturday at 1 p.m. to all the people that could make it, and we can talk. I'm gonna open a GoToMeeting link that I have to share on YouTube to get the subscriber part of this. So please subscribe and just come into the meeting, and we will see you there. Bye.